Imposter syndrome. You know, I think out of all the subjects of psychology, imposter syndrome is possibly one of the most fascinating ones, and here's why. If you're not really familiar with what imposter syndrome is, it basically means like feeling like you're a fake, a loser, a liar, all the above, right? And typically it comes directly after a point of accomplishment, right? It's like this feeling, for example, when I get off stage, I do great, I do awesome, I do amazing, right? That I feel like I shouldn't be up there. And in a lot of ways, I feel like, in my opinion at least, it's part of what makes a championship mindset, because you always hear about world-class athletes having a record-breaking game and thinking that they did horrible. You know, in the military, it's interesting because they actually do something called an after-action report. And what that basically means is that when you're done an activity, okay, you're supposed to come up with 3 things that you did good and 3 things that you didn't do good. I don't necessarily want to say bad, because they're just basically things that you could have improved on, right? Now, out of any project, task, etc., there is typically a left and a right, a successful and unsuccessful at such project. And what's really interesting is that if you are unsuccessful, your mind is a lot more at ease and it's a lot more clear. You can easily come up on the unsuccessful side, the things that you could have improved on, because that could have changed it to a win, right? To a success. And it is also relatively easy to think why you were unsuccessful, and you can just easily blame yourself and say, oh, well, because of these things, right? Now, the crazy part is that if you were successful in whatever task, project, whatever it is you were trying to do, okay, writing that after action report, typically speaking, is a lot harder. And that's really essentially what imposter syndrome is. Again, it can happen on both sides for like winning or not winning something, but typically it's a very normal, common thing. And I believe it is a keystone. I know I have it for sure. And I believe it is a keystone ingredient to have the championship mindset, the winning world-class mindset. Because if someone was successful, let's just say professional basketball athlete, they just broke all of their game-winning records and they just made another new record on top of that one, it's very normal for them, if they had to do an after-action report, to easily see their failures, things that they could have always got better at, that they could have improved on. But part of that championship mindset, what I'm getting at, is not seeing your success. Why? Because you're always focusing on improving. That is why I think imposter syndrome, if you know what it is at face value, you can put a label to it and not feel guilty about how you feel. You still might feel that way, right? But truthfully speaking, it really just means that you're always trying to improve. And you know, in a lot of ways, I feel like it's a healthy thing to have, but it really does come at the cost of feeling like a loser. I did a show last weekend, and I did 45 minutes of stand-up comedy. And I know for a fact I killed it. I did amazing. I made everybody laugh. I had people laughing every 6 to 8 seconds. And I know in that moment, I broke every record of mine. I had a record amount of audience members. I got paid the most amount of money that I got paid in a show, and I'm really climbing that ladder of improvement significantly. It was such a big jump, and it was such a big day, and it was such a big moment. And I'm 5 minutes down the road, and I just have this wave of a feeling coming over to me as I'm driving to another show, which I had to do 2 hours later in a different city, that I didn't do good, that I did awful, that I could have done a lot better. And all the while, knowing these different psychological aspects and principles, that's what really inspired me. That's what inspired me to do this episode, because it hits home for me as far as an individual that is always focusing not necessarily on the negative, but focusing on how I can improve. I say it in all my episodes, like, I have my alarm set for 4:00 in the morning, and I go to bed after 10 every single night because I don't like going to bed. I feel like it's a waste. I'm not producing anything. And I appreciate all of my brothers in arms, so to speak, from the military, right? Because as they're standing watch, I want to get every single bit of daylight and night in pre-daylight, in the morning when it's still dark out, to show respect and to honor those people that are guiding and standing watch, so that I can pursue this purpose, this reason of me being who I am, which is a professional stand-up comedian. And the harder that I work, the more thankful and appreciative. That's my way of showing my appreciation to them, is through my success, amongst other things. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Psychological Warfare. I really do love psychology, and maybe I said something that'll make you think twice and make you feel a little bit better, and also think a little bit harder as far as how you can be better yourself. So with that being mentioned, I'm Benja Welldone. Check me out. As always, peace.